afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another match in this first round of the Azure Dreams Rock Me to the Top Random Toolkit Tournament. And I'm Lady Depp, and joining me today will be Evan, who is right now in the process of getting us counted down. And say hello to the nice folks at home.
Hey everybody, how you doing tonight?
Alright, we are hoping... So, to explain what we are doing here, because this is still the first week in this tournament event, for those of you unaware, Azure Dreams is a PlayStation 1 mystery dungeon roguelike. We have the race beginning. I will explain what we are about to see in just a moment, because in a couple of seconds we will be seeing one of the first big changes of this tournament format from our previous. While they still have an hour to make it as far as they can up the 40-floor tower as fast as they can. Oh, they have dragons today.
Dragon?
One of the things is that it's more or less Cune, but a little bit better. While it doesn't have as much MP natively, and it can't be lifted, which is like a big thing.
That is a very potentially bad thing. The AI 1 strat will not work quite as well without being able to lift your own familiar, so we'll see how that plays out.
Right. The other thing to note is that this time, the starting kits, the first couple of monsters, the first couple of pieces of equipment are randomized, and therefore we have no idea what they have here to start with. It looks like some alright equipment. The Goblin Sword's not the best thing, and a monster that is functionally now they also just have Cune.
And there's a Cune, so we'll probably see a dragon run, I imagine.
Probably. They have the same spells. Wugga taking the opportunity to nickname the Cune with the laugh, because this is like, I guess one would call it the French vanilla of randomizer seeds. From this point, the tower is basically going to be the same as normal. Well, nothing else is randomized, except, of course, for the fact that every tower is a little bit randomized. Just inherently. Such is the life of a mystery dungeon.
The key here is, though, that both runners have the same layout in each of these seeds. So if one hits a trap, that trap will also be in the same spot for the other runner. Now, it's dependent whether that runner will hit the same trap, but it is there.
Right, and that also puts a pressure on them, because they know what monster at the moment their opponent has. They know that they also got this dragon, they also got that Cune, and that's, I think, the main reason why you hatch that first egg in most instances we have seen in this tournament, because you never know what's in that first egg. It could be anything, and what if your opponent hatches it and it's something really good? We have seen a race go badly for one runner because they didn't hatch the first egg, and it was a Garuda, which is like the scenario that haunts everyone who picks up that first totally randomized egg. It is not a Palumpa. It is not guaranteed to be a Palumpa. It still could be, in which case, well, that's bad luck.
Yeah, and that is the only egg that is randomized, so it's absolutely worth checking. And like you said, if one runner checks it and another doesn't, you know, it can be really game-changing to the point that it's just a complete blowout in a sense. Mm-hmm. And having seen that happen, a previous strategy that I had of, you know, leveling up a little bit, and then maybe hatching the egg so you didn't have to put in as much effort is, you know, not quite as viable anymore.
Yeah, that is the other side of that strategy, and also the fact that an unhatched egg is frankly worth more than a hatched egg, unless you need a monster. An unhatched egg can be given to your monster as food to restore its MP, because I think all mystery dungeons have some sort of food mechanic, an MP mechanic, something that encourages you to go forward, even if it would be better to linger around and grind. Here we have an hour time limit, but all the same, the mechanic is still there. It's not going to be a problem this round, because dragons just eat metal.
Yep, anything metal, coins, swords, shields, they don't care.
It makes them really great in fusion with anything with a high demand for MP. Like, say, I know Herking does a New Game Plus strategy, the High Kid strategy, where you take the most powerful and most expensive mixer magic, give it to a dragon through fusion, and then you're just basically got a coin-operated death machine. Here, though, with only its regular spell, the dragon isn't going to be an experience too far removed just from the vanilla experience of it. Right. It's got that fire element.
Yeah, for the most part, it's Qun Plus, I would say. Has more or less the same mixed magic, but he's easier to keep working.
Yeah, a coin-operated Qun, if you will.
Hey, literally, yes.
Yeah.
And we're seeing.
Oh, Scarlet Wand! That is the best wand they could hope to see with this monster. And it's interesting, I know Wugga has a Truth Glass, I don't think he's used it, but he's not checking to see if that Scarlet Wand is cursed, and he's not just putting it on anyway, even though the damage would be a lot higher than with the Life Wand. All monsters have an element. That element operates in like an elemental triangle sort of scenario where fire beats wind, wind beats water, or water beats fire. And if you have a weapon which matches your mixture magic's element, that's a boost. Oh, we see that Azureyume did put it immediately on and got cursed for his troubles. That's not so bad. Wands don't give you a lot of damage boost through their attack bonus. It's just one, and it's completely static in that department. And most of your damage boost from using a wand is a multiplier.
The curse, however, is a lingering effect that I'm sure he's not going to be quite very happy about. Even if he does find an item, the decurse scroll, that'll let him remove the item, but the curse will still be there, affecting Ko's luck stat. And the only way to get rid of that curse is to either leave the tower, which will forfeit him in this tournament, or to find a cure-all herb.
Which is very unlikely. Certainly possible, but it's not going to be around every corner. It might not be around any corner.
Right, it's not something that you can reliably bank on to get you out of trouble.
Right. That's mainly going to be a matter of accuracy, and I think maybe also his dodge chance.
Azureyume did the same trap that Wugga did, but he had monsters in the room and lost his dragon to it.
Yeah, that's not good at all. He does still have that Qun, and so he's not immediately doomed. He's going to have the same basic mixture magic, provided he can get out of this scenario first. Sometimes the tower can be incredibly cruel and end your life before you get the chance to do anything at all.
Yeah, Azureyume desperately needs to get out of this situation right now. He's not looking great right now.
He's used a medicinal herb, so he has the chance of surviving. He also used a malicious scroll to get them Manaweave the confused, but he's burning a lot of resources to get out of this one scenario. Also, it looks like a flame is coming.
It looks like he may have gotten himself out of this situation, though. It did cost him a bit, but he's still alive, and that's what matters.
Yeah, now he can hopefully take out that Cune and start working on getting it up to speed. It's going to be weaker, it's going to be level 1, but I think that is the better option to, like, as compared to running this familiarless this whole time, particularly when he is strapped to a Scarlet Wand and he can't take it off.
It's better to, if he's gonna lose this familiar, it's better to lose it early so you can still, you still have a chance to level him up for the later floors when you're really gonna need him.
Yeah, so now he's going to be running on backup. And if he's going to run familiarless anyway, due to not taking out the Cune, he can just run familiarless if the Cune were to die horribly. Putting it in reserve does not help him, basically. And so now it's getting caught up, it's out of its most delicate phase. And so his run isn't going to be that much different, but we are starting to see a real gap opening up between the runners as Azureyume gets his footing back. Wugga has just rushed on ahead. This looks to be floor 8, I think, judging from the background, which changes periodically.
I think he's on 9 right now, actually. He's getting very close to the somewhat scary floor. I mean, he's already on water floors, which with the fire familiar is scary enough, but he's going to be running into Krakens here shortly.
He's got a couple of floors before that, and I think those are floors where he can, like, take a breather. That is what we always say about fire elemental monsters, is here in this lovely lava and stone themed section where everything is a fire monster, they do have a little advantage in terms of nothing is too scary until we get to Griffins, which are still scary. Griffins are heavy enough hitters to be pretty scary, particularly depending on their defensive capabilities.
That, and they have the potential to snipe you with Pillar, strongest fire magic in the game, from, I'm not sure how far, and if you're outside of a room, but inside a room is 6 or 8 tiles, I believe?
Then it's probably the same. Rooms only matter for things which affect the whole room. That is the only place their range is different. But it looks like because Wugga managed to get so high up so quickly because of an elevator train that we are beginning to see payoff on Azureyume's side, and this is all caught up now pretty much. 2 Gulf Wands. That's weird.
Volcano on high ground's not a pretty sight.
No. Well, I said there's nothing too scary. This is not the same as there is nothing scary. And high ground, which is pretty powerful in terms of effecting damage, it's actually hard to overstate. Certainly makes that even scarier and puts it into too scary.
Yume getting hit with the lowdown, which is not doing him any favors at this point.
No, he has had a lot fewer chances to level up in trying to catch up with the imagined version of Wugga's run. I imagine Azureyume probably feels like Wugga did not get as unlucky with that trap as he did, and he's right. Wugga did not get nearly as unlucky and did not have to have that very long delay of trying to get out of those 3 monsters from such a situation.
That's right, Wugga woke up almost instantly, and that's another thing with Azure Dreams. Even though you hit the same trap, it may not have the same effect on each individual runner. It looked like Azureyume was slept for quite a few turns. I didn't get the count, but it was definitely more than 1 or 2 as Wugga had.
yes, since this is coming, and Chad, if you would like to know more about this tournament and how this is being managed, and the wonderful randomizer, which is offering us these lovely dragon runs that makes this tournament so fun, we do have Discord. It looks like the command is not set up, so I am going to run quickly and grab an invite.
Wugga has a unfriendly kraken on his tail. Wonder if he's gonna do something about it or just let him follow it. Letting it follow you is not such a great idea, unless he's just gonna go straight up. All it takes is to find another kraken right in front of you, and suddenly you have a really bad situation on your hands. But it looks like he's just gonna go up and not worry about it.
Yeah, krakens are scary. That's the only. They are one of those monsters that is, I think, a dread to every player of Azure Dream's heart. Not even every runner, every player. The tower is sort of set up in a series of staggered difficulty spikes, and krakens are one of those difficulty spikes, just in and of themselves.
Yeah, they are literally built to just be a pain. They have a water element, which generally in your first playthrough you're going to have a fire cune, so they've got elemental advantage on you to begin with. They hit, like, as Sand Knight would say, at 5 trucks duct taped together, and on top of that, if you hit them with any kind of a metal weapon, they're going to retaliate 10% of that damage that you dealt to them back to you on top of everything. They're just a horrible monster to encounter.
Yeah, that is one of the reasons why it is generally preferred to use a wand in runs. For one, because wands are just a fairly sizable percentage damage boost to mixture magic, and that is going to be your best source of reliable damage in the tower. But also, there's just one less thing to worry about. They also don't have to worry about rust traps, which isn't generally a problem in a speed run, where you might not even run into one, though it is a bit more of a problem in a long-term casual playthrough of Azure Dreams.
Honestly, I think in a speedrun sense, a rust trap is one of the better traps to hit, if you're gonna hit one.
Yeah, I can see that. If you're using a wand, and you're probably using a wand. Huh. Wugga... Wugga is using a trick, a glitch, a variation sort of on the Tumna glitch. It is a damage immunity. Basically, anytime you lift up your monster, and then do something weird with it, such as feeding it a Tumna fruit or sending it home like that, and it will, or releasing it back to the wild, it will confuse the game about whether or not you are on a tile. And thus grant you total immunity on that tile, but he can't move, and so I'm trying to wonder what he is waiting for. He's no longer trying to fight, so I'm trying to decide, is he waiting for these two to run out of MP so he can walk away, or is he waiting to be earthquaked up? Either way, that is a rough situation that Azureyume does not have to be in.
And Azureyume pulls ahead because of it. I'm thinking Wugga's probably gonna wait for the Kraken to run out of MP and try to skate by. Waiting for an earthquake is not very speed friendly.
Yeah, it looks like he has decided to abandon immunity, follow the Griffin, because it's not going to turn around unless they have to be in a room together. But at the same time, with the Kraken on your tail, that's going to be running a little bit of a risk that you might have to end up in a room together. And you might have to take some hits. Luckily, he has found the elevator at the very least, but isn't going to get to loot this treasure room.
And
that is a sad state of affairs.
It's an unfortunate side effect of the strategy he pulled there. He didn't get to loot any of those items that Azureyume got free reign of.
Yeah, these are, to be fair though, these are not stacked inventories, and so might be a slower strategy. You can't fault any strategy that keeps you alive.
Nope, staying alive is the name of the game in this tournament. With no re-entries, you gotta make do with everything you have. Pull out every stop, pull no punches.
Yep, you can't take it with you, so don't hold on to it out of fear of regret. Okay, excellent, good to know. No. Wugga getting caught by a frog trap, luckily not getting too badly hurt by aforementioned frog trap. He's going to be able to make it out of that one alive, and they're very close together. They are basically neck and neck, have roughly the same level. Their familiars are basically comparable. Not completely, but basically. And
more
so
or less, Azureyume's familiar is a slightly lower level, but other than that, they're pretty much the same at this point.
Right, and I suppose one could argue that though he sacrifices the freedom of MP and the slight level advantage that Wugga's dragon has, he does gain that added maneuverability of just being able to pick up Kuhn and run if you need to. Ooh, an egg. And on this egg, that could be a Garuda, that could be many exciting things.
Let's see if he checks it immediately or if he's gonna hold on to it. That could be, you could get a barong from that as well. I noticed on 16 he did not hang around to maybe try to find one. He was, as soon as he found the elevator, he was gone.
Yeah, I do not blame that. That's one of those things you kind of have to decide. And again, I think Ash is probably thinking, man, I had such a rough floor 5. I'm sure Wugga is miles ahead, but he is not. This has been a pretty neck and neck race.
I don't think he's feeling particularly great about the Kraken egg, though it does have its uses.
Yeah, it could, for example, make his monster water elemental, which is the ideal if he still has that stream wand, and I'm not sure he does.
Kraken also makes a pretty good egg bomb in a pinch situation, so he might be holding on to it for that at some point. We'll see. Confused Kuhn throwing out a Brid in the wrong direction is not a good sight. Brid is a fairly expensive, well, I mean, any direct spell is typically fairly expensive. And with Kuhn not being able to just eat any coin on the floor, that's gonna hurt a little bit.
Yeah, that...
Oh! Peter fruit, that's just insult to injury right there.
Yeah, and he is not far away from being able to make use of that Peter fruit, which is unfortunate. He does have the egg, which can do the same job, and that is one of the reasons why I think in terms of possible uses, even if it's only one use, it's hard to say that an egg is not a really good one-use item.
Eggs are great just for their versatility, between being able to hatch a new familiar on the fly, like you said, being able to feed them to pretty much any monster for 50 MP, or just being able to throw them and hopefully get out of a sticky situation. They're one of the best items in the game as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think the only real question is sort of when weighing what is the best item. I think it's mainly a matter of, is this resource more versatile or more powerful versus is this resource more dense? Ooh, a restore scroll, which is going to be useless on that dragon, but could be useful if something happens to the.
Alright, it looks like he's gonna forego reviving the dragon in favor of Kuhn at this point. I think that's the right call.
Yeah, it's too low level to really be useful. And now we're at a difficult section again. We have hit another difficulty spike in the form of these Arachne, who are just beasts in terms of damage, and water elemental, and that's not fantastic. So for these fire elemental attacks to be used, you can see how quickly that just burned through all of Azureyume's HP down to a very vulnerable state with not a lot of potential to recovery.
That's one advantage that Wugga seems to have with his dragon. They do quite a bit more damage than a regular Kuhn does. He did also use a pillar ball, so he used a little more supplies, but he has a lot more.
I think they used about the same amount of supplies, and that Azureyume did use an Oleem fruit eventually. Yeah. And so I think the main question is, could you have used that Oleem fruit sooner? And I think the answer is yes. Yes, I think.
For sure. I think he just wanted to get some XP. He's pretty low level at this point.
Yeah, I can't blame him. While you do see diminishing returns for level ups, I know Kuhn is not at the point where his spell damage has hit basically the absolute nadir of things.
It looks like both runners are on the same floor again. This is a neck and neck match. This is. I like the play. I like the plays on both sides, and you can tell. Your familiar will only take you so far. You also need to have, you have to have a strategy or a game plan to be able to get out of sticky situations. The familiar's generally not going to just carry you to 40.
Yeah, that is something that can be done any percent. But it's a little bit risky, and it's going to rely a lot more, particularly with these sorts of kind of vanilla familiars, on what sort of items they find to make a sprint up the tower really viable. And in unison, we are getting into their entry into Viper Town. Vipers are nasty, nasty fellas. Was dealing a lot of damage. They have the ability to attack, but I don't really view that as a significant portion of their threat at level. I think they're just threatening on their own, and you still have the Arachne. Wugga picking up that sleeping unicorn in order to chuck him around and chuck enemies away from him. That is kind of funny.
Room for some free experience along the way, not a bad play. Though playing around with unicorns is not always the best idea. They do have a low blind spell, which will take away all vision, mini-map included. So you better be either prepared with a roam herb or be quick on memorizing your map.
Yeah, that's going to be a tricky thing, particularly because, to be honest, the actual visual experience of the game itself can be misleading, and if you're ever in doubt, you really want to be using a mini-map. But in cases of blindness, when you're in doubt is when you don't have a mini-map.
Wugga finding he has a Kraken egg as well. He's probably, again, not super pleased with it, but again, it has its uses. We'll see what he does with it.
Yeah, you could get. It looks like he's going to hatch it. I think he's thinking about going for a water dragon here. Water is an element that, except for the couple of floors Azureyume is just now entering the mid to late 20s. For the most part, most of your threats in the tower are going to be fire or water based. And so water ends up a superior element. It's only roughly exactly where Azureyume is that we see a lot of dangerous wind monsters, such as blocks or zoos, which can paralyze you and mess up your monster's AI. And those are about the last wind threats I can really think of.
Stealth can be, you know, quite a problem if you spawn, like Azureyume spawned with only 30 some odd hit points. If stealths can spawn on the map invisible already, and if they're next to you, they get a free smack on you, things can go south real quick. Don't count stealth out.
That is true. There are two types of monsters in the tower, is how I like to think of it, which is
Azureyume using his Kraken egg as a bomb instead, not a
bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. It gets that out of the way as quickly as possible, dealing a lot of damage. Looks like, Revan, do you think you could adjust your volume, your speech volume up just a little bit? It looks like I think they are having a bit of trouble hearing you, or at least a little bit of trouble hearing you compared to me at the same time, and we'll hopefully get that sorted out.
How's that? Is that any better?
That does sound very good, thank you. I think that will be a lot better. Anyway, so the thing to note about, there are two types of monsters in the tower. That is where I was. There are monsters that can kill you, and there are monsters that can make it easier for other monsters to kill you. That is, I think, the main two things. And I put stealth more in the second category, in that you usually have to be weakened or in a bad situation, or in just bad luck for them to really damage an annoyance. But that doesn't mean that sometimes things won't happen in just such a way that they ruin your day.
Speak of the devil, I think Azureyume is actually encountering that problem now.
Yeah, it's not hard to defeat, but he's down some HP on that. And like, he better run and hope nothing bad happens. I would probably pick up Kuhn and do that, but he might not have the time to do so.
It looks like he's gonna bag him, yeah. I probably would have done the pickup strat as well, but it seems to have worked for him.
And now, if there is another secret stealth hidden somewhere, his day is going to go badly. Really badly. And this is the danger of stealths. This is the trick that makes them dangerous, when their raw stats aren't that impressive.
Wugga's showing no fear against blocks. That's a nice thing to be able to do, because blocks have a talent that gives them normal defense, so they're fairly tanky to begin with, and they also have an ability to be able to paralyze. So again, like you were saying, some monsters, you know, have abilities that make it easier for other monsters to kill you, but blocks kind of have both in a way.
Yep, they are a double threat. And that's not very pleasant. Luckily, while they are very defensive, if they had a fire magic, and they don't, that would certainly make it, or if they had a fire spell ball, rather. They have fire elemental magic. exactly the scenario you might want that for. This is, I think, why he has the Kraken at 99% at the moment. Snowman fight. And Wugga use that Holy Scroll to get that snowman on his side, but only for a little while. Azureyume has done a pretty good job keeping up this race and keeping up the pressure, even though his situation has generally been a little bit worse than Wugga's in a lot of ways from the very beginning. We are seeing them pretty much neck and neck this whole time, with very few exceptions. And I think
Yume's been on his back legs a bit more than Wugga has, but he's still pulling through. It's good to see that he's not he's not giving up. He's, like I said, he's not pulling any punches. Survival is the name of the game in this tournament.
Yep. And I'm also going to point out that one thing that I think probably maybe has helped Yume a lot is that this has not been a kind tower. This has not been a generous tower. They are both on pretty short commons here.
Wugga with another egg. Does he have a truth glass for it? I don't think he does.
He might, but I don't think so. And it looks like he is momentarily stranded, and that is scary. That's very scary. Wugga, a +1 defense increase is not going to help you now. He is pretty trapped, and I think he's going to have to decide what is he going to do about this. That would have been a good one, Gene Freak, is bag the dragon and take it out. It looks like it's still close enough range to do attacks, so that's going to work out pretty well. That does spend the Tumna Fruit, and he just got it, and that's gotta hurt. But whatever gets you out alive. And it looks like
they got a nice little elevator train going on here, it looks like.
Yeah, that'll help put some distance, though it could be distance Azureyume manages to make back up just as fast as Wugga could, depending on if Azureyume can get off of this floor. And it's giving him a time. He is at pretty low HP here and is going to have to be very cautious about every room. Looks like Wugga has decided it is now time for some Kraken fusions. He is out of the blocks and zoos and into the realm of everything is fire and water.
Yeah, I think this is a smart play at this point. Once you get past the wind floors and all of its shenanigans, going water is definitely the play, I think. And having the Kraken be the one to do it gives the dragon the electric body is just a little extra perk.
Just a little extra perk, and the dragon is, I think, defensive enough to take some advantage of that perk. There are some monsters where they just don't really have. You don't want them getting hit at all. But here, he's got a Restore Scroll. He's got the dragon's natural defenses. He could use that as a little bit of a tank in a bad situation.
For sure. The Restore Scroll is a nice added safety for both runners. So I think I wonder if we'll actually see it used at any point.
I'm sure neither of them. It's one of those things that you don't really want to use, even if sometimes you will.
Right, and they're typically last resort items. You don't want to have to use one. But you're always glad if you have one to use. So it's nice. It's like I said, it's a nice safety for both runners to have. The confused Cune is not such a great thing to have, especially when he's wasting MP like that.
Yeah, I would pick him up. That is, I think, the thing to do whenever Cune is afflicted by a status ailment that makes him unreliable, you just lift him. And he can't do anything while you're carrying him around. And Wugga, taking the opportunity to get a little... We are now in the home stretch of the Monster Tower.
Hello, Pildo.
Running into the only bit of story in the tower proper. Meeting the final boss about 9 floors before you meet him. He basically goes, I am Beldo, I killed your father, prepare to die in 9 floors.
And right next to an elevator with no monsters in it on top of that. That's beautiful to see.
It really is. Floor 31...
Oh no! You may lost June. Andy's confused. This is not looking great.
It is not. This is a thing that he might not be as aware of, is that actually he could still use a lot of things that aren't direct movements or attacks perfectly normally while confused. You can still lift things, throw things. Oh man!
Oh no!
He's down. That is round 1, won by Wugga. He is ahead in both floor and being alive. And so that brings us to the end of the first round. The tower's unpredictability means that these are pretty much always going to be best 2 out of 3s, so I will let them know. And they can reset and get ready for the next seed, which could be an entirely different game.
Alright, we'll just let them know to load up the next seed a while.
And this was a pretty close race up until the very end of it.
It was.
Azureyume couldn't get out of those late ones. And so I think there is a lot of chance for this next seed to be very exciting indeed. Oh, we're gonna see what it is. A Viper. That's pretty good.
Not my favorite monster, but every monster generally has its uses. Makes a good egg bomb.
Anyway, so soon we will get this set up. What are you hoping to see from round 2?
Monster-wise?
Yeah, or anything in those first 6 items if we're counting the initial monster.
I personally like to see a U-boat in the egg form.
Oh, that's a fun one. And the U-boat would have, number 1, an interesting choice, and I think to me that is what I'm most excited about in the random toolkit format is interesting choices. Do I keep it the monster in this form or that form? Do I fuse this monster or do I keep it? Do I use its MP on its special abilities in the case of U-boats who have a powerful ability to scout out any floors? Or do I use it as a fusion monster and get its spell, which is completely unique to it and pretty cool. Slow, but very cool.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. It's definitely unique and also incredibly slow. It's also a spell that I believe gets more powerful as it levels up, unlike some of the other spells. But like you said, it is pretty slow. I'd like to see it at some point in one of these tournament runs, though, to see how these runners handle that type of magic.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Looks like both seeds are good.
So What are you, chat? What do you think we're gonna see monster-wise this time?
That is a good question. While chat can give their answers, I think I would like to see really any monster that gives them some particular choices. I might like some. U-Boat and Garuda would be like, funnily enough, I think they would almost cancel each other's goodness out.
Yeah, to a point, yeah, they almost do cancel each other out. It is nice to be able to see the elevator, and if it's close, to just be able to run there on foot. But I think it ends up probably being faster to just warp around, though it does have its own dangers associated with that as well. So
Yeah, it's just going. It's one of those things where both of those but neither of them is quite as good together. They're as they are each as individual components of a setup. You know what would be, though, I guess? No, I don't think it would really be all that worthwhile to have that choice and compare them, because I think Garuda wins every time. Garuda is just that breaking to the flow of game, pretty much.
alright, and we got a countdown going. We should see them heading into the tower any second now.
Yep. I wouldn't mind seeing another Barong. But maybe... Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing another Barong. I know we saw that in last night's match, and that's a fun one in terms of choices offered. Because you could burn everything on playing the monster gachapon.
It's definitely an interesting monster to start with because, like you said, it's you have the gotcha element to it, and you can continuously do that as you find different herbs and seeds and whatnot that you don't want to give it just a little bit more MP for another try. But it really comes down to what the other monster you get is, because the Barong, especially if it's your starter monster, actually has access.
This is interesting. This is an interesting one. Bloom's Mixture Magic is really cool. It is one of the best Mixture Magics, in my opinion, in terms of ease of use, provided they know to make it wind. And I think both of these runners are experienced enough to have heard of the advantage of Bloom specifically as wind, because it's a monster you can find on an early floor. That Gulf Wand is just saying, please use my ability to paralyze everything.
Having it start out as water isn't bad for the starting floors, because most of the monsters are fire. However, cyclones are going to be a bit of an issue.
That is true. And of the 3 mixture magics that Bloom spells offer, it is basically a melee attack with a second effect based on element. And I think of the 3, the water second attack, which is just an extra bonus damage, is like not as good.
I think it's by far the worst. The fire version adds a blind effect, but it's also melee, so you have to tank a hit to get it to work. Wind is clearly the best out of the 3.
Wind is clearly the best. All 3 forms are melee. These don't have a ranged option. But it's interesting that they both abandon that plan and immediately go for the snowman. Which, come to that, I think has about the same spell, doesn't it?
It does. If they fuse to get a spell for snowman, it will have the same.
It has its spell unlocked, if I'm not mistaken, already. So you can see they are doing the same magic.
Oh, that's right.
They are doing Aqua Blade. Blade. The advantage of the snowman that I think they're favoring here is that it will eventually evolve into an even stronger monster, and that's pretty neat. Neither the snowman nor the bloom has any particular special abilities that make them really advantageous over the other. There isn't a diet or doubled, etc., into play. So I think this is about the right call. I think the snowman is the better of the two to use.
Snowman definitely has the better stats. The Bloom, however, has the I'm drawing a blank on what it's actually the Brainwash ability, which is a confuse. It could come in handy, but I think they made the right call switching to Snowman.
They made the right call. I would say that special abilities, except inexplicably Garuda's super powerful ability, most of them are too expensive MP-wise to see regular use. And I think a melee range confusion isn't ideal for getting out of a desperate situation to begin with.
They're not really losing anything from picking either of their starters either, because neither of them can be lifted as well. They both have the same spell.
Oh yeah, this was, I think...
Snowman actually has more MP as well, so there's that.
Yeah, oh, it looks like Azureyume may has some paralysis trap struggles here. I don't want to see another run go horribly wrong, but I'm also getting enough lag that I have no idea what's happening for a moment. But it looks like he is okay. It looks like we're not seeing a game to an end to this game set and match based on a trap on floor 3.
Yeah, what a nasty trap room that was.
Yeah, sometimes the tower is just like that. Sometimes it just decides it's done entertaining the concept that you should be allowed to live.
Considering that Yume was paralyzed during that situation, and he was up against a cyclone that had high ground against his familiar, he's very lucky he didn't lose his snowman in that encounter.
Very much so. That, I think, does speak to the advantages of a snowman's stats being pretty good. Generally speaking, a monster's stats do tend to improve as you go up it in the tower, just as a baseline. So I mean, in terms of how useful is this monster, how powerful is this monster, but it's not a guaranteed thing. It's not a rule. It's just the way things go. And so dragons are late monsters, and we saw how handy that was last time.
Snowmen are fairly late game as well, and they're not nearly as useful. Though they do have a nice break obstacle ability that doesn't really have too many applications outside of your own walls.
Yeah, I was about to ask, is that actually all that nice? It is pretty expensive for not a lot of payoff, because obstacles that could occur... Oh, more traps! He is now walking slowly and carefully through that room. Every step could be dangerous. Huh! Okay, it can be used as a more powerful... Thank you, Stream. That is some good info.
I was not aware of that. I thought it was just a quick break a volcano egg.
A volcano rock.
Yeah,
and not too expensive. That's good to know. Thank you very much. I will make a note of it, because I hadn't thought of monsters as obstacles, but I guess they are the chief obstacle.
Yeah, that is a good point. Every monster is an obstacle to be broken. And it seems that the snowman is, I mean, it's still a little expensive at 4 MP, but it's definitely worth it if it'll get you out of that situation.
And it certainly does have attack stats that can really make use of that. So that's actually one of the better monster abilities, because a lot of them are frankly not that useful in your hands, as opposed to enemy monsters.
Now, the real question is, do either of the runners know that? Because that was new information to me.
I suspect it won't be especially relevant information, even if they did not know it, but you never know. Sometimes you keep weird little things under your hat. And yeah, it doesn't have a direct offensive spell, and this does seem to make for a nice substitute for that, lacking only an offensive spell's range, which is, I think, the chief advantage of an offensive spell to begin with. Though that does seem to also be cheaper than that. Getting onto the water floors, this should not be the obstacle it is for vanilla, or in a situation where you have a fire monster. Everything is on equal elemental footing. U-boats are still scary.
U-boats are always scary.
They are just unusually hard monsters. For one, of course, because you can see them coming and do nothing about them to get that first hit in, generally speaking. You have to take the first hit or avoid the first hit. And there's nothing you can do about it.
They're kind of like the first gatekeepers of the tower, in a sense.
Yeah, I'd say so. I would say that if blooms aren't enough to scare you off if you're a first-time player of the game, if that's not the point where you get beaten and go home in disgrace, then U-boats are. That is probably the case. Because the game's overall gameplay loop, in a big picture sense, I suppose, though, is because he actually shows up as Toon is the ultimate gatekeeper.
He's the final gatekeeper, thank you.
Well, I don't know about final. It's not like he really gatekeeps you at the end of the game.
He tries to, and that's all that matters.
Yes, also, Wugga lost his snowman through the misfortune of, looked like a trap there that got him confused, but it might have been a Bloom's paralysis. I couldn't or brainwashing. I couldn't immediately tell, because we are having some stream hiccups here. He does still have that Bloom to fall back on. I think this is a pretty direct reversal of what happened last time, except he is a little bit ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking that it's a role reversal, but he's just a couple floors ahead.
Okay, the trap was a frog trap, and the snowman tried to be the hero, could not quite take it. It is understandable that these things happen sometimes. Sometimes you really don't want your monster to protect you. Unfortunately, generally they are trying to protect you because they can't listen to you anymore.
They know what's best for Co, so they're just gonna do it.
A noble, if foolish. I don't think it was in the hallway or doorway I think it was in the room and he walked out to try and escape danger. But he was already in melee, close enough to in melee with a monster that the snowman decided it wasn't going to go until the threat was destroyed. And the threat destroyed him. I think that is the scenario we can reconstruct from observation between us at UChat. And I didn't even comment on the diamond shields, which it looks like Wugga found somewhere along this road when we weren't looking, and it doesn't look like Azureyume has found it or put it on, possibly due to risk of curse. But I just don't think he has it on his person. I think it is in one of the floors between 6 and 11.
Well, he already has a steel shield. It's only one better. On a steel +1, it's actually the same as a diamond, if I recall.
Oh.
I don't know if it's actually worth taking the risk at all at that point.
Probably
I know
not.
Wugga can't be feeling too good about being level 5 on 12 starting in that room.
Yeah, he did not take any break. He did not take any pause. He is not going to slow down for anything. And we'll see if that doesn't run itself a risk.
It looked like there was a triple Kraken room in the corner of floor 13.
Yeah, that's not going to be fun. Hopefully they break up before, which is, I think, the scenario when you see a scary room on your spin-in. You hope it breaks up a little bit before you go.
Just hope you don't have to go anywhere near that room. Which, thankfully, I didn't see the elevator in that room, so he's in the clear for that bit. He also found an egg, it looked like.
Yeah, this could be big. The lag is in the restream stream. I'm not sure what can be done about that. We will just hope it sort of resolves itself. So, I think when Wugga got onto his back foot due to losing that snowman, I think he might have made the decision to just sprint for it and try and, even if it means he dies sooner, get ahead faster and hope that it's just something that Azureyume does not have the opportunity to make up.
How do you feel about that egg that Wugga just found? It could be a clown, it could be a U-boat, I believe. Do you hatch it at this point, or
I think at this point it could be a Garuda. I am pretty sure, because they start appearing on floor 14 and this is floor 13. And so, like, you hatch it. If it can be a Garuda, you hatch it. They are just that meta. And, they completely change how the game is played. To that extent.
It looks like they're trying to make our restream a little more fluid, so we'll see how that goes.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully that will resolve itself. It looks like there are a lot of volcanoes coming Wugga's way that we will see once the slideshow has advanced to the next vacation slide. Photos of the vacation.
Uh-oh.
Pick up the wind seed.
No, he left the wind seed.
He left the wind seed.
It looks like Wugga has the wind boom now, though. He did not pass up on that.
So he can just paralyze everything, throw it. None of his equipment can rust. He is, I think, probably feeling now very confident. There's not a monster he doesn't have to fight anymore in the same way that he could have previously. Oh, I'm actually guessing that it wasn't a wind seed. It's very possible he hatched the egg and it was like a clown or something. Though I can't actually. Nope, he did
No,
not
he
hatch
still
that
has
egg.
the egg. He
So he
still has.
must have used a wind seed. Also, this is a great room Azureyume is in, but I doubt he's going to get the time to loot it properly.
I believe Wugga was in the same situation. I think he may have grabbed the Olim and tried to escape quickly.
Yep. Yeah, that does seem to have helped it around a lot, Mind of me. Thank you. I almost said Azureyume. Thank you, Azureyume, for putting forth some great runs today.
It looks like he's going for it. He wants this item room, and you know that experience is a nice added bonus to it as well.
Yeah, I think so. It's
That
unfortunate that
water
is a
ball,
water ball.
yeah, that water ball could come in real handy in this room. Just let the snowman take care of everything.
Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. At this point, there's no everything left, and so I think he's got this pretty in hand, and we're just going to have to hope that this pays back the time and resources spent fighting everything in it.
Wugga doing some inventory management, it looks like. Tossing away some elemental seeds.
Means, yeah, that makes sense. Well, I think there are some niche cases you can use them for. I certainly think that if you're having to choose between elemental seeds and other things, other things probably.
Especially in this situation, I don't think he needs to. I mean, there's no real reason to switch off of wind at this point. Wind is the thing that's going to be carrying him from this point.
Yep, that may have some defensive downsides in terms of how fighting monsters might go, but its offensive upside here is great enough to overcome that for the most part. Unless he just has some real bad luck with traps.
Yeah, a bomb trap at this point could potentially one-shot. I don't know, because he is fairly low level, only level 8, so it might not. But generally, being wind is scary in its own right, just for that potential.
Yep, and in any situation where he's having to directly fight more than one monster, he might have a bit of a hard time because he can't paralyze them all at once. He can just paralyze them one at a time. Good for keeping melees from being a 2-on-1. Oh, that is a good point. There is that water ball. That is a thing he can use. It does give water elemental protection, and so fire monsters won't be that big a problem. But in that situation, in a situation where you might need that for that sort of thing, like for dealing with multiple fire monsters at once, it might be better to use your turn to paralyze one of them instead of using it on that defense.
No,
The
go
best
back. The
offense.
wind seed. Take it. Take it. He had a second chance.
I don't think Azureyume has thought about this particular trick and its power, because this isn't a mixture magic you actually see a lot of, especially not in vanilla any percent, where you're probably never going to use a bloom to begin with unless you have a special opportunity, and so you aren't going to think of it. And I think that is maybe the one thing that this tournament can really do to trip up runners is all of the situations that you don't think of because you never have a real chance to use them in regular any percent. They can all happen here, and you better think of them.
I suppose he could also be thinking that he is on fire floors, so being water element is a good thing in a sense, but he also didn't hold on to the wind seed, so like you said, he might just not be aware of it.
Either way, I think we will be able to ask that probably after the match and see if he knows about that. It looks like we are once again seeing the vacation slide version of this. The wind seed blew away. All we are is dust in the wind, seed. But we have begun to see just how much this can make a speed difference between Wugga's sprinting up some towers and advantage throw away any monster.
What was that throw?
That throw was forcing that other to turn around. If a monster hits an obstacle in their path that isn't you, they will just turn around and follow their movement AI. It is a pretty good manipulation. You see this a lot with Palimpas on the floors where Dark Palimpas reign with their regular weak cousins, and this is sometimes known as Palimpa Reign for that reason. It is a weird little manipulation trick.
Wugga manipulating the picket there. If you stand on an item and a picket tries to steal from you, it'll actually steal the item at your feet instead. So you can kind of cheese pickets in a way if you can have the time to set it up that way.
Yeah, it looked like in the hallway, in the doorway of that, there might have one, maybe two Manoevas disguised as copper coins. And I just suddenly got the image of these coins, and one of them tells only the truth, tells only lies. Is how will you get them to let you pass? And Wugga just walked away.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the play at this point. You don't want to figure out which one is telling the truth or the lie. You just want to ignore the entire situation entirely.
Now, I think though, when we gotta look at the map when he used those star glasses, that those might have all actually been coins. Or maybe only two of them were. It is very difficult to tell one spec versus two. Okay, it's easy to tell one spec versus two spec. Hard 2 versus 3.
And it looks like he found the picket that stole his light seed. Wants no parts of Ko anymore.
Yep. It is just going to taunt him and run away. That's fine. Whatever. Frankly, there's very little advantage to anyway.
Is Wugga trying to kill the pig? No, okay, there we go.
Yeah, no, I think he was just waiting. He's on some pretty low HP, but it looks like that could have gone real south. Oh, that's not pleasant. But yeah, here we see the advantage of paralysis. That spider goes from threat to not a threat immediately. Yeah, the picket wouldn't get paralyzed. So I guess it must have been unparalyzing very quickly and then taking its second turn. Because of course it can do that. Why wouldn't it? The almighty picket. Ooh, holy bell, that's pretty nice. Azureyume has a pretty good inventory, especially compared to last match. But Wugga has been having the advantage of just being able to chill out for a while.
And it looks like he's trying to hatch an egg. Is that the floor 13 egg, or did he find another one?
He did find, I think, another one, but that still could be the floor 13 egg. It's not really clear which is which, or which one he was hatching there. No, he didn't. So I think that is the floor 13 egg. A little late. It's interesting that I didn't see either of them try and... Ooh, big PETA.
Bomb trap. It didn't look like it did a ton of damage to his bloom though, so I guess he's in the clear.
Alright, so now we will see what is in this. We will see if Azureyume is sleeping on a gold mine. I hope that frog trap does not come to make him pay.
Oh.
And there's the snowman.
His snowman just lost the fight.
So I guess the thing that defeats snowmen is frog traps.
I think frog trap beats a lot of things if you're in the room with something else. We'll probably see him. Yeah, we're gonna see him try and hatch the egg as well now.
So the question is, what is inside this, and will this save the day? Because this could completely change up what is otherwise a fairly bad situation for Azureyume. He has a great inventory, but he is running at a bit of a deficit, and I'm not sure. Without something coming through, I don't know how long he can keep up a steady, reliable pace, because there's really nothing that, or very little that can... Oh, it's just a mule.
A mule? That's not a horrible...
it's not horrible.
He will need to be a bit careful with it though. If either Ko or the mule gets down to a certain HP threshold, it can choose to ignore his command, or ignore his AI and heal instead. He'll have to manually command it every time until he's out of danger or risk being de-healed.
Yeah, at least it will keep him using that Scream Wand and keep him taking advantage of that. And oh, the elevator is of course in the one room he has not checked in this giant floor.
And Wugga finding his mule now.
I doubt he's going to really put that to any particular use. It's a lot less useful to him than it is to Azure.
I didn't catch what he did. He release it? He's kind of lagging at the moment.
I don't know if he released it or just didn't bother with it once it hatched in any form, but yep, okay, it looks like he released it, and so... Oh, not going to even bother. I think that makes sense. I think... Oh, of course, it's a warp trap, and it doesn't look like he set the AI to 1, and so even though he landed, looks very close, he's going to now have to try and catch up to it, and that's maybe not ideal. And there goes the mule.
I don't know how I feel about Wugga releasing the mule though. Even if he doesn't use it for attacking, he could still use it to heal himself up after the fact if he does get damaged. And especially because the mule has plus 50 from herbs and seeds, it's almost as easy as a dragon to keep its MP up.
Yeah, that is true. I think he's feeling like the time he would spend doing that, getting it out, having it heal, get back in, it's maybe not worth the time. And it can be a little hard to maneuver sometimes. And oh, there's the other side of that room where several, it looks like this time, Manaweeva's line, several tell the truth.
Wugga looking like he's in a dangerous spot right now, pinned in a corner by a stealth.
Yeah, I think... And he has fireballs, he's fine. For the most part, wind elemental monsters even the threatening ones aren't as threatening as they might otherwise be, provided you have access to fireballs, and the hope of fireballs keeps them from being, I think, too much of a drain on one's thoughts. In the same
There,
way that working against or having not the best setup to deal with, say, water or fire monsters might be.
wind monsters typically don't do a lot of damage. They're more on the status effect side, which is scary in its own right. But some of them, some of them can actually pack quite a punch. Like zoos come to mind as one of those double-edged swords. They pack quite a punch, and they have a nasty ability to pair up with it, which Wugga is going to be encountering here shortly.
Yeah, but this time he's the one with paralysis powers. Oh wait, I think zoos are. You can't paralyze zoos. Good luck with
Exactly.
that,
Zoos
Wugga.
are immune to his paralysis ability, so he's gonna have to figure out another way to take care of them, or avoid him entirely.
While he still has fire charges, I think that's probably the play. And he does also have pillar up. He has enough inventory that for at least a while he should be okay against zoos he might encounter.
And it looks like Azureyume is getting a warm welcome to Viper Town, trying to pick up the. It looks like he's pushing a little. His button is a little too fast. Tried to pick up a sleeping Viper, and it woke up right before.
Oof. That is unpleasant. Then, oh, that is sure a room full of coins. Nicely in formation. Either way, he has the high ground. So, that was not unparalyzed. Or that became unparalyzed a little bit too fast for him to make a totally clean escape. The disadvantage of a paralysis heavy strategy like this is sadly some monsters you can't pick up and throw away.
A lot of these higher end floors, 30 plus, are too heavy to be lifted. So his paralysis strategy isn't going to be quite as useful in this situation. But he still generally will have the option to try and walk away from or otherwise manipulate their AI. So it's still looking good for him.
Yeah, I think with this setup he could keep going extensively. We did see in that room with the coins him scouting out to try and see a Manaweeva. I don't think there are any on these floors. I think that was just a bit of reflex from all the Manaweevas in the past. I think that's fairly common in most runners grow suspicious of any strangely aligned objects they might encounter.
After a certain point in the tower, once they start transforming, any item, especially coins that are right next to each other like that, become instantly suspicious. So I don't blame him for that.
Yeah, it's funny. It's sort of like once bitten, shy. Except it stretches forever. You are shy. Oh, there we go. Apparently they are on floor 30. This is the last floor they appear on. So the suspicion was totally valid.
And we have a killer friend now for some damage potential. We're probably going to lose him here, though, unfortunately.
Farewell, brave and noble friend. Brave and noble friend with axe hands.
And an insane critical hit rate.
That too. too, they're pretty alright. I mean, you know, as alright as anything you would call a killer bee, but that also makes them very scary. Killers are more than adequately scary.
Azureyume finding another egg. Is he gonna hatch it? Being familiarless at this point, looks like he will.
I guess he figures might as well. Maybe that will give him a bit more survivability. Which is, I think, probably his hope here for how he is going to possibly make his way out of this match. Also, oh wow, that is a monster party. Everything meeting up in this intersection. The Tyrant has gone berserk, and that is to his advantage a little bit. And it no longer knows friend from foe. It becomes very strange. For that
Everything is fair game at this point. With a berserk tyrant, they do not care.
Yep.
Anything in front of them is getting stabbed.
Yep. This is the true berserker style that Azureyume picked up, which isn't going to be especially great. It's not super bad or mad.
It looks like Azureyume found a unicorn and he's going to try and use it. Let's see how this goes. I'm quite fond of the unicorn's mixture magic, just the AoEs in general, although they are quite expensive, so we'll see how that plays out for him. An added benefit to that is that his mismatched wand actually doesn't count against him with that spell either.
That is true. It no longer cares have equipped. It does not care about your capacity for melee damage. It is a fixed power sort of scenario, which isn't as true on Wugga's side, and with that blade spell. But then again, that blade spell doesn't care about anything in that sense. It just paralyzes everything.
Seen some heavy use of the blind balls, one of the better ones in my opinion.
Absolutely. Once you have the blind ball, once you have the monster blinded, and you can do that from enough distance that you can judge roughly how any monster is going to behave, they become predictable and fairly safe. It won't prevent them from attacking you, but it will prevent them from noticing you or moving towards attacking you in an active fashion.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but having the unicorn out actually has an added benefit of making Ko immune to blindness as well?
I believe that is the case, yes. Yes, and this is true for a lot of monsters that have some special ability or some sort of status effect that they can give to other that they can cast as a spell. They are usually in turn immune from that status effect as their special trait.
Seeing a nice use of it looked like 3 or 4 holy bells Azureyume had stocked up. That was a quick get out of jail free card there.
Yeah, for a couple of runs. That was a pretty good way out. It looks like Wugga hitting a nice quick elevator spawn. He is, I feel fairly confident, going to go all now
and the elevator train
on the final floors. That's what you always want to see. If he can make it to 440, he wins. Earthshaker is not very good against blocks. You don't think of their defenses quite so much when you're or if you're used to fire monsters, but the moment it changes element, you suddenly go, oh, wait a second.
Suddenly your mixture magic goes from doing decent damage to almost nothing, yeah. Makes you heavily reconsider your decisions.
Yep. But I think in this case, Azureyume made a pretty good call in switching to water. That's certainly a better element going forward than wind. It's just probably not going to matter all that much.
He's catching a bit of a train himself. He's, see how that works out. Being water on these floors is generally a good thing, so maybe he can start fighting some stuff and not have to worry too much. Because he is fairly low level at this point.
I think at this point, level almost doesn't matter in the sense that most things are deadly enough that a couple more HP is not going to really help. But it would increase the unicorn's mixture magic, and that is something worth considering. On the other hand, Wugga just has so few floors left to deal with. You can see him paranoidly checking every.
Oh no!
Oh, he did not need to check. That's gotta hurt.
He knew he was on 39 though, so he just didn't care. It was worth it to make sure there wasn't a trap on the elevator.
So GG Wugga, for Wugga, that is game, set, and match. We will ask if they would like to do a friendly third. But these were some pretty solid runs players through some rather unfriendly towers. Whereas, while we had a couple of relatively nice inventory places and the monsters were pretty good and in some cases pretty interesting, on the other hand, Azureyume ran into trap troubles so consistently.
It looks like we will not be having a friendly third this time around, but we will have an interview.
Alrighty then. And then I will try and get them both in. And I will be right back for that interview.
Alright, let's see. Does Chad have any questions to ask the runners while we're waiting for them to come in? And while you guys maybe come up with some questions for them, isn't it nice to see a 40 climb in a tournament setting like this? Just the sheer, pretty much everything that could be affected by randomness is from your starter to your starting gear, your starting egg, and then just the tower in general being the tower. This tournament is pretty stacked to the gills with talented runners, and you can't count anybody out in this tournament. And it looks like Wugga is trying to block off Beldo. Making himself an ice cage. I see.
Alright. It looks like I might need to send the invites personally. So let me get a link for that. And out to them.
Looks like Wugga's trying to break Beldo's AI for the stream's benefit. If you can manage to get behind the ultimate egg like this, Beldo will actually get stuck in the chasing of you, because he gets 2 moves He'll actually move forward and then just move back until you go and walk over to him and let him kill you.
Hey,
Hey, thank you. That was a great 8 match. Those were good streams. It looks like we do have a question for Azureyume right off. What choices would you have done differently? And
I think on the second run, I definitely spent too much time like catching eggs for monsters, like whenever mine died. But I mean, other than that, I don't know. I felt like I played fairly well. I mean, maybe a little slower than I should, but I tend to do that. Take a little bit too much time killing monsters and things like that. It's a bad habit of mine.
do you know about to Bloom and Snowman's mixture magic when it is wind elemental? Because that is a thing if you were going to do, and surprised that you didn't. And so I think we were wondering if you knew about that.
Oh, 100% I didn't. I'm awful with, like, outside of the realm of normal, like, just Qune and other things like that. I'm not really super familiar with the different magics and the mixtures and that kind of stuff. It's one of my biggest weak points, I'd say.
Well, what it does, and what Wugga did to great effect in that second match, is it paralyzes any enemy. Every enemy.
I see, yeah. I have seen that mixture magic before, but I just wouldn't know the combinations for that.
Yeah, it's something that this tournament is going to be a little stressful for some runners because a lot of the runners, as mentioned in previous races, a lot of people in the Discord actually haven't even cleared the game to begin with. So knowing every spell and its its elemental variations is a lot to ask for.
yeah, honestly, if I hadn't trained like crazy just before the tournament, I wouldn't have known half the spells. It's almost as if a new DLC for the game just came out for the game for me. It's been so much fun. And paralysis, obviously, that one I knew about. And it was crazy having both Bloom and a Snowman. I immediately thought, okay, wind seed, please, as fast as possible.
Yeah, that actually formed an interesting parallel in the first race. Azureyume lost the dragon very early and switched to the mostly dead to go but a little less good Qune. And basically the reverse happened in the second race, where Wugga lost the Snowman pretty quickly and then spent a long while with the Bloom.
You guys were actually pretty neck and neck in both of the seeds up until around like 16, 17-ish.
16, 17-ish, this one on the first seed, it was actually more like it was probably more in the 20 form.
That's interesting. I'm really gonna go back and watch this match after the fact. I still have the shakes from this run.
I cannot blame you.
Like, paralysis is great, but then when it fails, if you get pincered down and you have enemies that you can't lift up, and suddenly you've just created your own death sentence. So it's always, it's just teetering on the edge with that one. I'm really glad I got to actually finish the run with the Bloom, because that's not a given at all.
Yeah, the paralysis is a nice touch, but at the same time, it does so little damage that it pretty much forces you to run away, so you have no real power outside of your item uses at that point.
Yeah, that's like the second tower towards the end there. I had so many good items in my inventory. I tried to just start focusing on using those as much as I could instead of trying to like fight or use my monster.
Yeah, that was that started out as a pretty rough seed, but towards the middle and end of it really picked up in terms of its overall generosity. Gee, I think the hands dealt were interestingly varied, might be a good way of putting it.
I was on death's door, I'd say probably like 80% of the first run. With,
Oh.
every trap and thing I was running into, it was just like, it was awful.
So you lost the dragon. Did you use the one from the egg? I forget what it is because I used the dragon all the way through.
Kuhn. It was Kuhn.
Oh, right, it was. How did I forget that? Yeah,
So
I
that
used
it
it for
worked
the.
out really. Yeah, it worked out really well since it was Kuhn. You know, it wasn't much of a loss.
Right. I actually used it for invulnerability glitch. I can't believe I've blanked out on that already.
It can be a lot to take in, and so I think sometimes your mind just kind of goes into this exact moment you're in, and nothing beyond that.
Yeah, I can actually get behind that.
Yeah, I got a little lucky on the second run. was using the snowman, and I had the stream on for a while, and then the snowman died, and I hatched an egg I had, and it was a Newell. So I just went right back into another water monster with, fairly strong backup magic. But then I forget what I lost it to, but something. I lost it not that much long after.
Warp trap, I believe.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh dear, good old warp traps. I actually
Good old
hatched a
warp
Nile
traps.
as well.
Yeah, because it was on. It could have been a Garuda, but it wasn't.
It wasn't, yeah. Just hedging my bets on that. Didn't work out this time.
Either way, those were some very strong runs. Very impressed with that second run in particular, Wugga. But I thank you both, as well as this excellent folks at Speed Gaming, for hosting us as usual. If you would like to see more of this tournament and of Azure Dreams, please do feel free to check out our Discord. Links are up in chat. Check out the runners. It is a great time, and this tournament will only have more surprises around runners, I think.
I sure hope so.
And I think that's just about everything.
I believe so. I just want to say a quick GG to both runners. You both put up very good runs, and something you should be proud of. Beginning to floor 20, almost 30 in both your tower runs is quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, GG's Azureyume. I sure had a blast.
Yeah, GG Wugga. I had it was a lot of fun too. Honestly, going into it, I was didn't have high hopes, considering where you're on the leaderboard, but I think I did pretty well considering.
Yeah, Wugga's an intimidating opponent. A lot of scary people out there in this tournament.
For sure.
Yeah, GG guys.
All right, and I think that will be just about. We hope you all had a good time watching. We had a great time commentating on this. See you later.
See you, everybody.
Toodaloo.